Hello, everybody. Time for my second and final appearance at this conference to give you the African Journal of Business Ethics report back to AGM. Bit of a mixed bag of stories that I'm going to give you. But let me start with the good news, I suppose. So this is really what you might think of as the demand side of the journal. So over the past year or so, some media have been tracking article views for the journal, and really what we've seen is that we've had somewhere between 1,500 and 4,500 views of articles consistently per month over the period. And that's not bad. I mean, it means people are reading the articles. It means hopefully that people will be citing them. And I guess that's good news for authors or potential authors of the journal. So that's really the good news on the demand side. Unfortunately, on the supply side of papers, it's a slightly more gloomy story. Actually, not a slightly more gloomy, it's a very gloomy story. So at the moment, we have 18 active submissions. One of those is just a submission, so this means it hasn't been sent for review, and I'll come back to that in the general sense a bit later. We have 14 articles which are in review, so this means they're either with reviewers or they're back at the authors for revisions. And we have 3 in copy editing. So those 3 are very shortly going to be shifted into production, and they're going to form the basis of volume 18.1 of 2024, together with an editorial just to bulk it up. And really that's going to be our volume for the year. It should come out before the end of the year. Well, it will come out before the end of the year. So that's on the supply side. But there's a story which underlies this story. So if we look at the more detailed statistics of the past year, so from 7th November last year to 7th of November this year, what we can see is that we've had a total of 65 submissions received. Now, that sounds okay, but actually it's not really a lot. We really need a lot more than that, particularly when we look at the rejection rate for the journal, which currently is sitting at 88%. I mean, on the one hand, this is good. It shows the rigor with which we monitor and screen papers which are coming to the journal, and our principle that we won't publish papers that are not decent and good papers. So an 87% or 88% rejection rate is probably fairly normal. And it would be fine if we were getting 1,000 submissions a year, but we're only getting 65. And the consequence of this is the fact that we're really struggling to put out volumes. I guess equally concerning is not just the rejection rate, but also the desk rejection rate. So for those of you who don't know, desk rejection rate is basically the rate at which we reject papers basically at an editor level without even sending them for review. So a full 72% of papers which arrive, or manuscripts which arrive, are rejected by ourselves as editors based on one of 2 things. Either the manuscript is not within the scope of the journal. We are never going to publish a general surgery paper in the African Journal of Business Ethics, or else there's just absolutely no chance that the journal will ever receive a positive, or that the manuscript will ever receive a positive review, and so we're forced to reject the papers. I must say though that we tend not to reject papers which we don't think are going to get a positive review immediately. Very often what we'll do is we will, certainly if a paper has some kind of spark or kernel or hint of a decent paper, as editors we'll tend to engage with the authors ourselves, provide them with quite detailed editorial feedback, suggestions, guidance, and invite them to resubmit the papers to us, in the hope that those papers will become more suitable for review. And that's one of the reasons why we see our average days to accept at 207 days, which is actually quite high. So a paper will come in, it's got a good idea, or it looks like it could potentially make a decent paper. We'll engage with the authors as editors. try and help them to get it to a level which is likely to to receive a favorable review, and then we'll send it out to reviewers, and that obviously takes time. So yesterday, or actually earlier today, I mentioned that a lot of the papers that we receive tend to look like mini dissertations, and very often this is the kind of process that we'll follow. When we see it's a paper coming from what looks like a student, we will send take on that kind of mentoring role, I guess, as editors, which is I mean, in a sense, it's good that we do that. Very often journals won't bother with that sort of thing. So perhaps if we were getting 1,000 papers a year, we wouldn't bother with that sort of thing, which would be a pity. The other reason why the average days to accept tends to be as high as 207 is nothing to do with authors or ourselves, but to do with reviewers, and we really struggle with reviewers. So that's it's interesting to me how academics want their papers to be turned over and turned around quickly between submission and publishing, but the minute you ask academics to review a paper, you get anything from not even a response to sorry, I'm busy, to to any number of excuses. So that's that's an indictment a little bit on the nature of academics at this stage. So that's the statistics and our current status, and particularly the gloomy aspect of this report in terms of the supply side of papers. There is one slight silver lining in this grey cloud, and that's the fact that at the moment we do have a special issue, which is in the pipeline, which will almost certainly be published very early next year. At the moment, we already have 6 papers, most of which I think are likely to be published. And just before I leave you, I think it's time to put a little bit of pressure on the president of BEN Africa. Brian, you've promised me a contribution to that special issue, and I'm waiting for that. Otherwise, thanks very much. For those of you who are traveling, travel safely, and I hope you enjoyed the conference. Bye-bye.